When others awakened fire and lightning powers in the apocalypse, I awakened, winning Huazi cigarettes and peanuts from a lottery. The system said every point could change fate. I spent 7 points and got a household first aid kit. Just then, the boss's wife upstairs, whom the landlord had failed to win over despite spending millions, came fleeing downstairs in a panic wearing a tight hip-hugging skirt, threw herself into my arms, and said that as long as I would give her a bite to eat, she would stay and never leave. The heavy rain had been falling for more than 5 months, and the whole world was soaked in water. My name is Su Yin, trapped on the 17th floor of Yulong Bay residential complex in Sioux City. Outside the window, the dark clouds pressed daytime into night, and rainwater splashed noisily into the room. A row of stainless steel basins had been placed along the base of the wall to catch the leaks, and they were almost full. The entire city was submerged in floodwater. Even the tallest trees were nowhere to be seen. One high-rise after another was half submerged in the water. All kinds of debris floated on the surface, along with corpses. Animal and human, both. I stood by the window, gripping the steel pipe in my hand tighter and tighter. I made this steel pipe myself from leftover renovation materials, sharpening one end to a point and wrapping hemp rope around it for grip. I'd practiced stabbing for months, all for times like this. The sound of the rain suddenly grew softer. I didn't feel relieved. Instead, my expression darkened even more. Whenever the rain let up, those things became more active. Sure enough, a sharp, bizarre sound came from outside the window. A round, strange fish covered in black spots all over its body spread its fleshy wings and flew up 7 stories high, charging straight at my window. I didn't think twice and thrust the steel pipe out. Puffed. The spike pierced straight through the thing. I quickly pulled back the steel pipe, shut the window, and locked it tight. Skewered on the pipe was a stingray. How could something with such clumsy pectoral fins fly this high? Wait, stingrays can discharge electricity. I immediately laid the steel pipe flat on the ground, grabbed a hammer with a wooden handle, and brought it down with one strike. Puffed. The fish's head was smashed to bits. This time it was completely dead. A mechanical voice suddenly sounded in my head. Congratulations, host. You have killed a mutated stingray and gained +7 points. I froze. Then my heartbeat suddenly accelerated. My cheat ability has arrived? A system? A panel appeared in my mind. Host, Su Yin stamina, 10 strength, 11 agility, 8 spirit, 11 ability, none awakening, 0% points. 7 I'm 1.85 meters tall and usually keep fit, so my physical qualities are a bit better than the average person's, especially my strength. My agility is slightly lacking, but it's still no worse than an ordinary person's. As for what spirit meant and why it was so high, I didn't look into it. My eyes were fixed on the points column. System prompt. Points can be used for lottery draws. Each point can be used for one draw, and the items obtained are random. Start the lottery? I tapped start without hesitation. It had been more than 5 months. The supplies we panic bought at the beginning had long since been mostly eaten up. Every day I gnawed on expired bread, and my stomach had never truly been full. Obtained 1 pack of Dashang instant noodles. Finally, food. Too bad there's only 1 pack. Continue drawing. Obtained 1 box of Okamoto 001 ribbed edition. I looked at the little red box in my hand, the corner of my mouth twitching. What do I, a single guy, need this for? Obtained 1 bag of Weilong spicy strips. Not bad. Obtained 1 jump rope. Obtained 1 water cup. What the hell is all this? Obtained 1 carton of Huazi cigarettes. Good stuff. Obtained 1 case of Kang Shuifu mineral water. All 7 points were used up. I looked at the pile of stuff all over the floor. The most useful thing was that pack of instant noodles. My stomach growled. But what I needed more urgently was something else. I opened the Huazi, pulled out 1 cigarette, lit it, and took a deep drag. My head spun for a moment. A long missed taste. After smoking half a cigarette, I decided to splurge a little and not eat instant noodles soaked in cold water. The water, electricity, and gas had long since been cut off at home, and more than half of the sofa, tables, and chairs worth tens of thousands had already been burned. Fuel has to be used carefully, but today was different. I found the blowtorch, carried the instant noodles to the kitchen, screwed the butane canister onto the torch head, and heated up a bowl of hot noodles over a low flame. After barely filling my stomach, I sat back down on the only sofa left and lit another Huazi. Bang, bang, bang. Suddenly, knocking sounded at the door. I frowned, picked up the steel pipe, and walked toward the security door. Through the peephole, a woman stood outside. 24 or 25 years old, with jet black long hair draping over her shoulders, delicate brows and almond eyes, a straight nose bridge, and a pair of plump red lips that were excessively sexy. White flower pearl studs adorned her earlobes. She wore a red sleeveless dress with a plunging neckline, exposing a large area of pale, smooth skin and a deep cleavage. Xiao Muling, my boss's fiancé. My boss was worth $1 billion and was in the middle of a divorce lawsuit with his wife. He had settled Xiao Muling on the 23rd floor of this building, more than a month before the torrential rain, besides overseeing the renovation of the new house. I also worked part-time as her driver, responsible for her daily transportation, so she wasn't unfamiliar to me. She graduated from a prestigious university, came from a cultured family, and was very well brought up. After more than a month of contact, I realized she really wasn't that kind of gold-digging mistress. The boss had gone to enormous lengths to pursue her for a year, even divorcing his wife, before he barely managed to win her over. The boss had spent several million on Xiao Muling, and even now still hadn't made it to home base. There's no point saying any of this now. The world is already like this. Suyen, are you there? Sister-in-law? Aye, it's me. Through the peephole, she bit her red lip, looking embarrassed. I knew why she had come. She lived alone and didn't have many supplies. If I hadn't helped her out, she wouldn't have lasted until now. The apocalypse had been going on for almost half a year. Which household still had extra food? But other than me, she had no one else to turn to. Separated by only a security door, we both fell silent. Suddenly, footsteps came from outside. Xiao Muling's expression changed instantly, her eyes filling with terror. After order collapsed, human hearts degenerated faster than anything else. In this building, no one knew how many tragedies of all kinds had happened. More than one completely naked woman had been seen in the hallway. Some had already become cold corpses. Some were still alive but wore numb expressions, as if they had lost their souls. I unlocked and pulled open the door, saying in a low voice, "Get inside first." At the corner of the hallway, 2 men carrying fire axes appeared. The moment they saw Xiao Muling, they were first stunned, then overjoyed. "It's that beauty, the one boss specifically asked for. Grab her, quick." The 2 of them charged over excitedly. Xiao Muling shuddered all over, unable to remain standing, and was about to collapse. I stepped forward to steady her, practically dragging her inside through the door, then slammed it shut with a bang. Bang, 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 bang. The pounding on the door erupted urgently. "Open up. Fuck, open the door now. Kid, I've memorized your face. If you still don't open it, I'll go get people to smash the door down. When that happens, don't blame us for being ruthless." Xiao Muling collapsed into my arms, staring at me with wide, terrified eyes. She was afraid I wouldn't be able to withstand the threats and would open the door and hand her over. She knew all too well what would happen if she was sent out. "Fuck, let's go back and report to Brother Hua." Hearing those words, my brows twitched and killing intent surged in my eyes. I shoved Xiao Muling away with one hand while opening the security door with the other, and with my other hand pulled a steel pipe from the cloth bag hanging on the wall. Whoosh! The moment the door opened, I hurled the steel pipe like a javelin. In the narrow hallway, we were less than 3 meters apart. If I missed at this distance, I might as well find a block of tofu and smash myself to death on it. Puffed! The steel pipe pierced straight through one man's chest, carrying him down to the floor. The other man turned and saw this, and his face changed drastically. I had already pulled out a second steel pipe. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just as I threw the javelin, the other party also hurled the fire axe over. Bang! Thud! The fire axe grazed my scalp and smashed into the security door. It flew out. My javelin also lost its aim because I dodged, and it stuck into the opposite wall. We both froze for a moment. I instinctively went to pick up the fire axe on the ground, and he turned to pull the javelin out of the wall. I was a step faster and grabbed the fire axe, then threw it backhanded. Damn! The guy had only pulled the javelin out halfway, got scared out of his wits, and turned to run. I quickly chased after him and pushed open the fire door. But the stairs above and below were empty, and all I could hear were hurried footsteps fading into the distance. He sure ran fast. My front door was still open, and afraid someone might take advantage, I didn't dare chase any farther. I came back, picked up the fire axe, and pulled the javelin from the wall. The corridor was empty, and the neighbors' doors were tightly shut. Only the guy whose chest had been pierced by the javelin was lying on the ground, groaning in pain. Carrying the fire axe and javelin, I strode over. The moment he looked up and saw me, fear showed on his face, and he said with difficulty, "Bro, listen to me. Who the fuck is your bro?" I brought the axe down and chopped through the back of his neck. Killed a mutant, gained points +8. Mutant? I stared at the corpse on the ground, my expression grave. This guy had mutated? Couldn't tell at all. I had no time to think about it, and first retreated into the room and shut the door. Suyen, are you okay? Xiao Muling had recovered, and, seeing me covered in blood, nervously stepped forward to check on me. I'm fine. I moved her hand away, took off my t-shirt soaked in blood, tossed it aside, and went to the bathroom to wash up. The water, electricity, and gas had long been cut off, so I could only rely on collected rainwater. I made a water tank at home and connected it to the indoor water pipes, manually adding water so it was convenient to use. Women really are trouble. Not only does she eat my food, she also brings trouble to my door. Xiao Muling's hand froze in midair. Watching me walk into the bathroom, a mist welled up in her eyes. Only after I finished washing and came out did she react, hurriedly handing me a towel. I wiped myself down carelessly, cleaned the blood off the steel pipes and the fire axe, put them by the entryway, then sat back down on the sofa and pulled out a cigarette. When I suddenly started killing, I was full of strength, but only after sitting down did I feel sore, weak, and drained. My hands were shaking so badly, I couldn't even work the lighter. Xiao Muling came over, took the lighter, flicked it hard, and lit my cigarette for me. Only after a drag of smoke entered my lungs did I feel a little better. I looked up at her. Through the curling smoke was an exquisitely beautiful face, filled with unease. A body-hugging dress, the hem only reaching mid-thigh, long straight legs wrapped in sheer stockings, crystal sandals. Her face, figure, and curves were all perfect. No wonder she had drawn so much attention after living in Yulong Bay for just over a month. Looking at how awkward she seemed, I remembered why she had come, and pointed at the cardboard box by the wall. There's food and water in there. Eat something first. Thank you, Suyen. Xiao Muling licked her bright red little tongue over her lips, picked up a piece of bread from the box, tore open the wrapper, and started devouring it. Bread that was dry and hard still tasted delicious to someone starving. Her little mouth worked desperately, as if she wanted to stuff the whole thing in at once, and naturally she choked, rolling her eyes. I found it a little funny. Was this still that lofty sister-in-law who cared so much about her poise? I walked over, opened a bottle of mineral water, and handed it to her. After gulping down a few mouthfuls, she finally let out a long breath, her face flushed red with embarrassment. Thank you. I sat back down on the sofa and asked her, how many days has it been since you ate? 3 days. After finishing a cigarette, I continued the lottery draw. 8 points. This mutant I killed was only worth a little more than the mutated stingray. That guy must have just mutated, and there still weren't any obvious changes to his body. His vitality was tougher than a normal person's, that much I could feel. I thought again of the two attributes on the panel, powers and awakening. One is blank, and one is 0%. Whatever these two are, I don't have them right now. I tried asking the system, but there was no response at all. Never mind that for now, keep drawing. 1 pack of Sophie Night Use Extended Version. 1 bag of Jinsheo dried noodles. 1 barrel of Luhua peanut oil. 1 household first aid kit. 1 Dijon braised chicken. 1 case of Jean Gaifen liquor. 1 bag of peanuts, 10 kilograms. 1 strip of beef tendon. Looking at this pile of stuff that appeared in the system space, the corner of my mouth twitched. Couldn't you give me weapons first? Wait, beef tendon? A thought suddenly flashed through my mind. A bundle of beef tendon, at least 20 meters long. What can it be used for? A bowstring. I still have a large amount of leftover tools and materials from the renovation here, including some wooden boards left over from making custom furniture. Back then, I was afraid these things might come in handy, so I'd rather burn sofas and dining tables worth tens of thousands than throw these away. Make a crossbow? No, that's thinking too small. A crossbow is fine for shooting people, but against those mutated things, it's not reliable. My mind started racing. Although Xiao Muling was very hungry, after eating a piece of bread, she still forcibly held herself back from continuing to eat. There wasn't much food left in the cardboard box. She looked at me sitting on the sofa in a daze, then looked at the heavy rain outside the window, and said quietly, no telling when this rain will finally stop. I didn't react. Xiao Muling froze for a moment, looked at me, hesitated for quite a while, and finally seemed to make some sort of decision as she spoke. Suyen, I looked up at her. This rain shows no sign of stopping, and the water level will probably keep rising. I nodded. Your place, the 17th floor, isn't all that safe either. Yeah, I echoed casually. How about you come stay at my place? Mine is on the 23rd floor, so it's at least a bit safer. After saying that, her fair face flushed red, and even her neck turned red with embarrassment. Only then did I turn my thoughts back to her. I knew she lived in a second-hand apartment on the 23rd floor, but I had never been there. Previously, every time we went out, We contacted each other by phone and then met in the underground garage. I hadn't expected her to take the initiative to invite me to her home. In this chaotic world, as a woman on her own, whether staying at home or going out to search for food, neither is safe. Faced with this seemingly endless disaster, it looked like she had figured things out. If it were yesterday, I might have agreed. Not because she was my aloof sister-in-law, nor because of her stunning beauty. The truth was, being alone was just too lonely. For more than 5 months, holed up in this big house, I felt even more empty. But now, I had other plans. I shook my head. Xiao Muling's eyes suddenly widened into perfect circles. She had never imagined that the invitation she made after swallowing her pride would actually be rejected. She took a deep breath and gave me a solemn bow. Su Yan, thank you for taking care of me during this time. I'm leaving. She turned and walked toward the security door, not even taking her own backpack. Her home had already run out of food. With her looks, if she went out to search for food by herself, she would only become prey for those crazy men. Thinking of those women lying naked in the corridors waiting to die, she would rather die than be humiliated. Having made this decision in an instant, Xiao Muling inexplicably felt a wave of relief, and even her steps became lighter. I looked at the pink backpack tossed on the floor, then at Xiao Muling leaving empty-handed, my face full of surprise. Sister-in-law? Xiao Muling's steps faltered for a moment, but she didn't stop and kept walking forward. I said in confusion, if I'm not going to stay at your place, you can stay at mine, can't you? Hearing this, Xiao Muling trembled all over, and the courage she had just worked up instantly drained away. Compared with the pitch-black daytime, there wasn't even a trace of light at night. Amid the pouring rain, the land was completely dark. On a marble coffee table sat a plate of tempting braised chicken, a plate of fried peanuts, 2 bowls of white rice, and a bag of Weilong spicy strips. A lit candle cast a small patch of light. That made for a candlelight dinner. Although it was pitch black, there was somehow also a sense of warmth. The power had been out for 5 months. Meat was long gone, and vegetables were out of the question. Being able to eat a bite of white rice mixed with sugar was already a blessing. Xiao Muling sat on a paint bucket, putting her fingers, each smeared with oil, into her mouth and licking them clean one by one. Looking at the fragrant roast chicken, she could hardly believe her eyes. Where did Su Yan get it from? Those who have never gone hungry will never know how precious food is. During these past few months, although Su Yan had been helping her out, Xiao Muling could only eat a tiny bit of food each day, remaining in a state where she wouldn't starve to death. She had been very thin to begin with, and now she had lost even more weight. Only that pair still showed no sign of getting smaller. It was troubling. She had run out of food 3 days ago. She had lain in bed for 3 days, and in the end, relying on a few snack crumbs scavenged from various places and filling her stomach with water, she barely managed to make her way to Su Yan's place. Looking at this lavish dinner, she felt as if she were dreaming. Su Yan? Why you pinch me? I'm not dreaming, am I? Su Yan, sitting on the single sofa opposite her, smiled and reached out to pinch her thigh. Hiss, it hurts. Seems like we're still missing something. Su Yan clapped his hands, went to the kitchen to get 2 cups, then brought out a bottle of baijiu, and said, want a drink? Xiao Muling nodded obediently and said shyly, I don't really know how to drink baijiu. Looking at the charming beauty under the red candlelight, Su Yan suddenly felt as if a flower had blossomed in his heart. At this moment, all fear, exhaustion, and loneliness were swept away. Replacing them was the sprouting of a seed of excitement. A trace of a mischievous smile appeared on Su Yan's face as he raised his glass and said, sister-in-law, cheers. Cheers. 2 hours later, 1 bottle of Jinggafen liquor was already empty, and the second bottle was nearly gone as well. Xiao Muling's eyes were liquid and soft, yet she still sat steadily on the paint bucket. Su Yan finally believed a saying. Any woman who dares to sit down at a drinking table can drink. Come, Su Yan, let your big sis toast you with a cup. Su Yan's tongue was already thick as he said, sis. Sister-in-law, where are you from? I'm from Qingqing in Lu province. Hearing this suddenly blurted out dialect, Su Yan felt the image of the goddess before him collapse in an instant. That slight flutter in his heart also shattered along with it. That line in dialect was just too powerful. But Xiao Muling clearly hadn't noticed that she had let it slip subconsciously just now. Are you raising fish? Seeing the baijiu left at the bottom of Su Yan's glass, Xiao Muling refused to let it slide. She got up and walked over, sat on the armrest of his sofa, picked up his glass and poured it into him. Finish it. Gulp. After the last half cup of liquor went down, Su Yan's hazy eyes finally closed, and he slumped onto the sofa. Su Yen? Looking at the drunk Su Yen, Xiao Muling curled her lips. With that little capacity, and you drank with me. As she spoke, she poured herself another glass of liquor. Halfway through drinking it, she suddenly sobered up. Huh, it seems like I messed up. If I'm pretending to be drunk now, is it too late? Hey, Su Yen, wake up. Looking at Su Yen sleeping like a dead pig, Xiao Muling had no choice but to give up. She first got up and walked to the security door, leaned in to look out through the peephole. It was pitch black outside, and she couldn't see anything. Xiao Muling checked the door lock, then let out a sigh of relief, turned around and looked at Su Yen, drunk and collapsed on the sofa, tilting her head helplessly and pursing her lips. At the same time, in a room on the 13th floor, another feast was being held as well. The table was littered with cups and plates, and the floor was strewn with liquor bottles, cigarette butts, and trash. In the 50-square-meter living room, there were many gentlemen and noble women. Amid the noisy clatter of bamboo clappers and loud singing, the banquet hall came alive. Brother Jia, come switch with me for a round. On a sofa in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, a burly middle-aged man sat there alone, smoking. His slightly furrowed brows showed that he was not pleased inside. Kong Kai, the owner of a real estate company in Sioux City. In his early years, he had also been involved in the underworld, but later went legit and went into the construction business, eventually transitioning into real estate. Although he couldn't compare with those few giants, he was still somewhat well known among the local real estate developers in Sioux City. After the floodwaters completely spread, he immediately keenly sensed that the times were about to change. Afterward, he immediately launched a money offensive, stockpiling a large amount of food and supplies, and promised high pay to gather a group of his trusted subordinates, telling them to come by boat and join him. What does one rely on in troubled times? Force, food, women. In order to win over his subordinates, he even brought in a batch of ambitious girls from a club. As for money, if you don't spend it, it's just a pile of waste paper. Although this group of his subordinates wasn't large in number, they were all very capable fighters, and each one was fiercely loyal. Boss, a skinny man, drenched in sweat, walked over, glanced out the floor-to-ceiling window, and a worried look appeared on his face. Kong Kai shot him a glance, a trace of imperceptible jealousy showing in his eyes. Boss, the water has flooded up to the 10th floor. I'm afraid our place isn't safe anymore either. Kong Kai nodded. Earlier, he had still been wary because the people living in this building were all successful figures, and he didn't dare act rashly. Unexpectedly, another force had struck first. Since everyone had let loose, what was there to fear? Just do whatever. Afraid there won't be a place to live? Just go up to the higher floors and take one by force. Ah! A woman suddenly flung off the man behind her, screamed, rushed over, and dropped to her knees before Kong Kai with a thud, crying and begging. President Kong, for the sake of us having been neighbors for many years, please spare me, spare me. I really can't do it anymore. My parents' family has money. I can call my dad. Whatever amount you want, we have it. Kong Kai swept a cold glance over her and said, Mrs. Hu, if you had opened the door earlier, you wouldn't have ended up like this today. A sturdy young man chased after her, grabbed her by the hair, and with several slaps backhand and forehand, directly knocked the woman unconscious. Boss, these proper society ladies really are better than those prostitutes. Kong Kai frowned slightly and waved his hand. Yes, the young man directly dragged the blood-covered woman away by her hair. Kong Kai sighed inwardly. Desire truly is a bottomless gully. Once you have something good, you still want something even better. Why can't people just be satisfied? The skinny man added, those damn security guards robbed several more households yesterday. If we don't make our move soon, the supplies stockpiled in each household will probably all be taken by them. Kong Kai picked up the black pistol placed on a nearby round table, gave it a light pat, and said disdainfully, so what if they take it? They'll only be keeping it for us for a few days. Haha, yes. In this country, guns are deadly weapons and very rare. But for Kong Kai, what difficulty was there in getting his hands on a couple of guns? But the underworld isn't some exclusive family business. If he could get them, could he guarantee that others couldn't? In this very building, behind each tightly shut door, you never know which household might stick a weapon out. Let those damn security guards test the waters first. And in the end, all he had to do was harvest those security guards. Kong Kai asked, who are they planning to rob again tomorrow? The skinny man said, originally they were planning to sweep the 20th and 21st floors. But an unexpected piece of news made them change their plan and prepare to go to the 17th floor. Oh, They said the complex beauty of Yulong Bay suddenly ran to 1701 yesterday, and they want to snatch this woman over. Hearing this, Konkai immediately showed disdain on his face. A bunch of idiots who've never even seen women. Smack. A fish suddenly flew up and slapped against the floor-to-ceiling window. Konkai didn't even raise an eyelid. This floor-to-ceiling window was made of Huashi-manufactured glass, let alone a fish. Even a sledgehammer couldn't break it. Early the next morning, Suyin woke up and found himself lying in bed. Bare-chested, and his clothes were all gone. He turned his head and looked around before recalling what happened last night. He had slept on the sofa last night. So how had he ended up on the bed? Was it Xiao Muling? Drinking really causes trouble. Remembering that Xiao Muling had moved into his home yesterday, yet he had actually gotten drunk and passed out, Suyin couldn't help feeling annoyed. He had been careless. But Suyin still knew Xiao Muling to some extent and figured she probably wouldn't do anything stupid. For someone with a foundation of trust, he could still be somewhat at ease. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared drink so freely yesterday. Suyin got up, put on his clothes, and went out to the living room. At a glance, he saw Xiao Muling coming out of the kitchen carrying 2 bowls. "You're awake? Eat." Seeing the hot porridge in the bowls, Suyin immediately frowned. Noticing this, Xiao Muling's expression changed slightly, and she said, "I saw that. There was still some wood left in the kitchen, so I boiled some hot water and cooked some porridge. From now on, I won't waste firewood anymore." Suyin nodded. Always eating cold food and drinking cold water wasn't good either, and the fuel problem would have to be solved sooner or later. Suyin had actually already had ideas about this, but now that he had the system, it would be even easier to handle. The two sat down to drink porridge. Seeing Suyin's dark expression and sullen look, Xiao Muling suddenly burst out laughing. Suyin bent his fingers and tapped the table, drawing out his tone as he said, "Eat." Xiao Muling nodded and continued drinking porridge. But after a while, she raised her head again and gestured with her thumb and forefinger, saying, "Your alcohol tolerance is probably only about half a gene." As soon as Suyin heard that, he got anxious and said stiff-necked, "Nonsense. Yesterday I was not in good condition." "Oh." Xiao Muling nodded and continued drinking porridge. After breakfast, Suyin came to the windowsill and began tinkering with a wooden frame. He had already finished most of it yesterday. Now once it was assembled, it would be done. Xiao Muling stood to the side watching curiously. Then a look of astonishment appeared on her face, and she reached out to cover her mouth in surprise, saying, "You're making a bed crossbow?" Suyin nodded. With the ox tendon, and with all kinds of tools at his disposal, making a bed crossbow from the leftover wood wasn't difficult. The gears for drawing the string could also be made of wood, and there was no shortage of butter at home. As for the bolts, the polished steel pipes he had prepared would do. He had downloaded a huge amount of this knowledge before the internet went down. In the apocalypse, production had stopped, and many things had to rely on being handmade by oneself. A set of pulley mechanisms was also installed above the balcony, originally used by the renovation crew to haul up materials and large appliances and furniture, and it just so happened that it could be put to use as well. By tying a rope to the end of the steel pipe, after it was shot out, it could also be retrieved with the pulleys. After assembling the bed crossbow, Suyin fixed it to the window, load a steel pipe, then use the hand crank gear to chamber the bolt. Perfect. Seeing what Suyin was doing, excitement also appeared on Xiao Muling's face. With this, we can catch fish to eat and also collect things floating on the water. After saying that, she seemed to think of something else and said, "No wonder you wouldn't come live on the 23rd floor with me. So that's why." She now completely understood that the reason Suyin wanted to stay on the 17th floor was to catch fish. The 17th floor was only 7 stories above the water. Going to the 23rd floor would be too high. Suyin was also very satisfied with his handiwork and said, "Let's try it." Then he turned the ballista, aimed at a big fish on the water's surface, and pulled the trigger. Whoosh! Coming down from above, the steel pipe was even faster and hit the target in one strike. "Suyin, you're amazing." Xiao Muling's face was full of excitement, her beautiful eyes filled with astonishment. At this moment, however, Suyin was stunned. Killed mutated sardine. Gain points +2. What he had clearly hit was a cod over a meter long. So why was the system notifying him that he had killed a sardine? "Quick, quick, pull it up," Xiao Muling shouted excitedly while fumbling to crank the pulley beside her. The rope tied to the steel pipe instantly went taut, pulling the steel pipe upward. Impaled on it was a cod more than a meter long, still struggling and thrashing. So that's it. Although the steel pipe had pierced the cod, it hadn't killed it. That strike just now had coincidentally skewered to death an unlucky sardine in the water. When the steel pipe was pulled halfway up, the cod struggled violently, suddenly slipped free and fell into the water. A large cloud of blood immediately spread across the water's surface. The blood drew the school of fish over, and they all lunged at the injured cod. It got away. Seeing this scene, Xiao Muling felt deeply disappointed. But excitement shone in Su Yan's eyes. Killed mutated cod. Gained points +8. The cod had obviously been bitten to death by the fish school, and that still counted as his kill? So as long as he dealt the fatal blow, it would count? Detected that the host's points have reached 10. Would you like to unlock a new prize pool? Su Yan was taken aback. So higher points meant higher prize pools as well. Naturally, better prize pools also had better items. Money not spent is wasted when it expires. Su Yan said directly. Unlock it. Obtained Wuchang rice *5 bags. 125 kilograms. Food was enough for the time being. What he needed now were weapons and fuel. Continue. Su Yan recocked the string and aimed at a second fish. Missed. 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 Killed sardine. Gained points +3. Su Yan's mouth twitched. It seemed the first hit had just been luck. Still, there were way too many sardines in the water, always getting caught in the crossfire. In the neighboring building. Look, on the 17th floor opposite, there's an idiot shooting at fish. He probably still doesn't know that the fish in the water have already mutated, and anyone who eats them will turn into a monster. Building 18, 17th floor. In front of the floor-to-ceiling window, a brightly dressed man and woman sat at an expensive dining table, using knife and fork to share a single, marinated egg. The man of the house glanced at Su Yan in the building opposite, the corner of his mouth curling into a cold, disdainful sneer. Poor kid, he's probably run out of food already and can only catch fish to eat like a savage. The woman opposite him had her stomach growl a few times, carefully lifted a small piece of marinated egg to her mouth with a fork, then licked her lips and said, "Honey, our family is about to run out of food too." The man of the house immediately showed anger on his face. "Isn't this all your fault? When we went to grab food before, why didn't you grab more?" The woman looked at the half-marinated egg on the exquisite plate. She complained softly, "You wouldn't go, and I'm just a weak woman. How could I possibly outgrab those men?" The man of the house yanked off the white napkin covering his expensive suit and said angrily, "What status do I have? How could I go to the supermarket and scramble for goods with those barbarians? What would that look like?" The woman said nothing and turned to look at the balcony across from them. A young man and woman were operating a crude crossbow, the kind that looked like something used by primitive people. The man was shooting arrows, while the woman worked the pulley to reel back the arrows that had been fired. A trace of envy appeared in the woman's eyes. This was the attitude one should have in the apocalypse. Then she looked at her own husband, an elite in the financial world, earning an annual salary of over $1 million. But what use was being able to make money? In times like these, 500,000 in cash couldn't even buy a loaf of bread. Meanwhile, Su Yan worked hard for quite a while and hit 20 or 30 fish. However, with the smooth steel pipe, he still couldn't bring back a single fish. Xiao Muling watched from the side for a long time and finally couldn't help saying, "Su Yan, this won't work. You need to add barbs to the steel pipe. Haven't you seen a fishhook before?" Although Su Yan usually looked a bit slow, he wasn't stupid enough to be this dumb, was he? Su Yan set the retrieved arrow back onto the crossbow and glanced sideways at Xiao Muling. Seeing the unfriendly expression on Su Yan's face, Xiao Muling's heart skipped a beat. Right? Su Yan wasn't an idiot. How could he not have thought of such a simple issue? If he wasn't doing it that way, there had to be a reason. Su Yan turned his head back, and at the same time, the arrow in his hand shot out with a whoosh. Just then, a sudden knock sounded at the door. Hearing the knock, Su Yan frowned, put down the crossbow, and walked toward the door. Looking through the peephole, he saw a young married woman standing outside, looking nervous. She was his neighbor, Zhuang Xiaoyou, around 27 or 28 years old. While rich people aren't necessarily good-looking, there really are a lot of beauties in wealthy neighborhoods. Zhuang Xiaoyou was wearing a flesh-colored MILF dress. The fabric clung so tightly to her skin that it seemed almost non-existent, instead outlining a startlingly alluring figure. Below her off-the-shoulder neckline, a breathtaking cleavage was enough to leave one breathless. Even the little belly people often had been completely smoothed away by hunger. Below her slender waist, her full, rounded hips spread like a drawn bowstring. Little brother, could you lend your big sister some food?" Zhuang Xiaoyou hesitated for a long time, and the very first words out of her mouth filled Su Yan with disgust. "What little brother? Your whole family are the little brothers." Zhuang Xiaoyou's household consisted of only her and her husband. When Su Yan first moved in, as neighbors, they had warmly chatted with him for a while. It was through that conversation that Su Yan learned they had not been married long, and that this newly renovated house in Yulong Bay was also their new home. Zhuang Xiaoyou's husband was named Yu Binhong, and it was said that he worked for the government, though his exact position was unclear. He looked to be some kind of leader. Housing prices in Yulong Bay were outrageously high, but Su Yan naturally had no interest in other people's crap. During the small talk, some sensitive topics about the house naturally came up, and Su Yan frankly admitted that it was his boss's house and that he was just an employee. Hearing that, the couple's expressions immediately turned cold, and they lost interest in talking. They didn't even greet him when they ran into each other afterward. But after the Great Flood, the couple repeatedly came to him to borrow food. At first, it was Yu Binhong who came. When he couldn't borrow any, he sent his wife instead. His wife also hit a wall, and the couple had obviously started scheming up other ideas. Zhuang Xiaoyou had dressed like this today and had even put on makeup. Her little scheme was self-evident. Even the way she addressed him had changed. "Pa, little brother," Su Yan said coldly. "Sorry, my family doesn't have much food left either." Zhuang Xiaoyou had long expected him to say that. Putting on an aggrieved expression, she said, "Little brother, if you still won't lend your sister some food, your brother-in-law and I are going to starve to death." Su Yan let out a scoff and laughed. "What the hell does that have to do with me?" Zhuang Xiaoyou froze, clearly not expecting Su Yan to refuse so bluntly. After a pause, she said, "You lend it to that woman every time. Why is it not okay when I come?" The woman she was talking about was naturally Xiao Muling. It seemed that when Xiao Muling had come to borrow food before, the couple had seen it all through the crack in the door. Zhuang Xiaoyou swayed her figure and said, "I'm no worse looking than her." Su Yan smiled and said, "What does whether you look good or not have to do with me? You're not going to sleep with me anyway." Zhuang Xiaoyou froze and said, She let you." As she spoke, she covered her little mouth in shock. Just then, the door to the room at the side was suddenly pushed open, and a man wearing checkered pajamas strode over in a fury, saying, "Su Yan, you've gone too far. I'm not dead yet." Su Yan's gaze swept toward the ground, and he was slightly startled. The man he had killed yesterday, the corpse on the ground, had disappeared at some point, leaving only a pool of dried blood. Who had taken the body away? At a time like this, who would still be in the mood to collect someone else's corpse? "Su Yan, did you hear what I said or not?" Su Yan came back to his senses and said coldly, "Hear what?" Yu Binhong's tone faltered. After a pause, he said, "I'm still here, and you already want to sleep with my wife?" Su Yan laughed in exasperation and said, "Please get this straight first. This isn't what I want. Right now, it's you two as a couple begging me." Yu Binhong said, "Little Su, you don't need to explain. You're a young man, all alone. It's normal to have certain thoughts. As for me, I can understand. Meow meow meow." Su Yan was dumbfounded. "But this is my wife after all. If I really let you sleep with her, what would that make me? I'm a man too." "Huh? If you want to sleep with my wife, just a little food definitely won't do. You'll have to add more." At this, not only Su Yan, but even Zhuang Xiaoyou and Xiao Muling behind the door were stunned. Su Yan asked with interest, "How much do you want?" "I want 50 jin of rice and a box of instant noodles." Su Yan crossed his arms over his chest and sneered, "Is your wife made of gold or silver? Asking for 50 jin of rice? I'll give you at most 10 jin." "No, 10 jin is too little. At least 40 jin, 15 jin, 35 jin, no less." Yu Binhong, listening to the two of them haggle over her as if she were merchandise, Zhuang Xiaoyou was completely enraged. She glared at Yu Binhong, trembling all over with anger, and finally said, You've gone too far." With that, she turned and headed back home. Hey, wife, we haven't finished discussing this yet." Yu Binhong hurried after her and slammed the door shut with a bang. Crack. Inside the room came the sound of porcelain shattering. Didn't expect it, but this Yu Binhong was actually quite magnanimous. He'd already started selling his wife. Standing in the back, Xiao Muling looked at Su Yan's back, but her expression didn't look too good, and it was impossible to tell what she was thinking. Su Yan, however, didn't take this little episode seriously. He went straight back to the balcony and continued shooting fish. After practicing for several hours, Su Yan's accuracy had clearly improved. In half a day, Su Yan shot nearly 100 fish and gained 389 points. Sure enough, after the points exceeded 100, the system produced a new, higher-tier prize pool. He drew directly. Obtained one small silent generator. A generator. Good stuff. But don't just give me a generator without fuel. Su Yan immediately walked to a room and took out the generator. Nice, a full tank. The generator wasn't very big, and it even had 2 wheels installed underneath, so it could be pulled along. He pulled the generator straight out, connected it to the main switch, and started it. Beep, 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 the whole room filled with the beeping sounds of appliances turning on. Su-Yin? Xiao Muling, who was busy in the kitchen, ran out looking flustered and said, How is there power? Could it be? She wanted to say, could it be that the apocalypse is about to end? Before she could finish, she saw the generator placed against the wall. Her face, full of surprise, instantly turned to disappointment. Right? How could the power possibly be back? The rain outside was still pouring down. Su-Yin said, the generator left over from the renovation. Xiao Muling nodded and said nothing. Do renovations need a generator? How would she know? But then she quickly became happy again. They could charge their phones and tablet now. She happily rummaged through her bag and pulled out her phone and tablet. Just as she plugged them in, she suddenly froze and asked, Su-Yin, will charging the phone waste electricity? Su-Yin waved his hand and said, Charge it. How much electricity could that use? The temperature is fine now, so there's no need to turn on the air conditioner. With the storage space given by the system, Su-Yin could use the refrigerator or not. Lighting didn't use much electricity. The only thing in the house that really used power was that 100-inch TV. After downloading several of movies, it finally wasn't for nothing. There were still 289 points left, so he kept drawing. Obtained 1 barrel of gasoline, 200 liters. Su-Yin's eyes lit up. As expected of the 100-point tier, really good stuff. With a little over 100 points left, he continued. Obtained 1 Remington M870 shotgun. With 100 rounds of ammunition, holy shit. A devastating close-range weapon. The Remington M870 shotgun is semi-automatic. Although its rate of fire is slow and its magazine capacity is small, it is powerful and doesn't require much accuracy. Loaded with 12-gauge magnum shells. Within 50 meters, it could even penetrate body armor. Solid. Lunch was white rice with lao gan ma. The meal was simple, but there was plenty of it. The two still ate with great appetite. While they were eating, bang, 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 there came a burst of knocking on the door. No, it was pounding on the door. The moment he heard it, Su-Yin knew it was the guys he had let go yesterday, coming to cause trouble. Xiao Muling wasn't stupid either. After freezing for a moment, her face immediately turned tense, and she whispered, Is it the guys from yesterday? Su-Yin nodded. Open up now. Actually, the security door was very sturdy, and without large equipment, it wasn't easy to break open. After pounding on the door for a while, the people outside clearly realized a forceful assault would be hard to pull off, so they started psychological warfare. Kid, I know you're in there. Hand over that woman obediently, and not only will Brother Hua spare your life, he'll even give you food. That's right, hand over that woman, and Brother Hua will give you 10 jin of rice. Running into a generous big brother like Brother Hua, you should count yourself lucky. Yeah, if you behave well, you might even get to follow Brother Hua. There'll be food, drink, and women. Su-Yin was so angry he laughed. A bunch of stingy idiots. When they spin a fantasy, they won't even make it a big one. He could ignore them, but having a bunch of people making a racket at the door was really annoying. Su-Yin first tiptoed over to the door and looked outside through the peephole. There were 6 or 7 people outside, nearly filling the hallway at a glance. They were holding weapons like fire axes, steel rods, and kitchen knives. They wore electric scooter helmets on their heads and thick down jackets on their bodies, armed very thoroughly. The person standing at the very front had even stuffed thick books inside his chest area as layered armor and was holding a frying pan as a shield. Sure enough, in the apocalypse, no one who manages to rise above the rest is a fool. Even if they were just using everyday items, the protection could still be quite good. Against this kind of protection, light power weapons like hand crossbows would be hard to deal with. Using the noise of knocking on the door as cover, they were still quietly discussing the final tactics. This kid only knows how to throw javelins, and they don't have much force behind them. Old Fifth will hold off the first hit in front, and the others will rush in all at once and hack him to death first. Hearing this, Su-Yin curled his lips into a cold sneer. These guys were quite well trained. Since you're all so disciplined and lined up so neatly, then I'll just skewer you all together. Su-Yin directly dragged over the ballista and set it up facing the doorway. A frying pan plus thick books could indeed block a thrown javelin. But what about a ballista? In terms of power, a ballista is actually stronger than an ordinary rifle, especially its penetration. And with those heavy, sharp hollow steel pipes as bolts, the only regret was that the rate of fire was too slow. But that didn't matter. At worst, he still had a gun. After setting up the ballista and cocking the steel pipe, once everything was ready, he nodded at Xiao Muling. Then Xiao Muling hid by the door and began acting. Big brother outside. I can go with you, but you absolutely mustn't make things difficult for Su Yan. As soon as the people outside heard this, they were instantly delighted. Good lord, in times like these, there was still a woman this loyal? Damn it, with a beauty protecting that kid like this, she must have already slept with him. Later we'll have to chop that kid a few extra times to vent our hatred properly. A voice from outside said, Beauty, don't worry. As long as you're willing to come out, we definitely won't make things difficult for your sweetheart. That's right, you just walk out by yourself, and we won't even enter the room. Beauty, our boss really has taken a fancy to you. Come out and be our boss's bandit wife, and from now on you'll be our sister-in-law. We guarantee you'll live in luxury. Xiao Muling said in a trembling voice, What you're saying is all true. This time she wasn't pretending, she was genuinely nervous. Don't worry, our brother Hua keeps his word. Just ask around. Our brother Hua has a great reputation. Xiao Muling said. Then, all right, I'll open the door and go out by myself. None of you come in. Don't worry, Beauty, we definitely won't go in. The people outside all laughed when they heard this. Of course they wanted the beauty and the food and supplies in the room. They wanted those too. Xiao Muling looked back, saw Su Yan nod, then suddenly shoved the door open and leaped back. Charge, the apartment door only allowed one person in at a time. The 7 men outside formed a single file line and shoved their way inside. How much force could one person put behind throwing a javelin? With all 7 of them stacked together, they could definitely withstand it. As long as they held off the first attack, it would be like wolves among sheep, slaughtering freely with gleeful abandon. However, the moment Old Fifth, the first to enter, opened his eyes, he saw an enormous ballista. Holy shit, fall back. Old Fifth was greatly alarmed. But the people behind him didn't care about that at all. They kept forcibly shoving Old Fifth inward. Stumbling, Old Fifth reflexively flung his arm, and even the frying pan left his chest. Now, buzz, at a distance of 3 or 4 meters, the ballista bolt directly pierced Old Fifth's armor and punched through his chest. One person's body hardly slowed the bolt at all, and immediately after that it pierced through the second person, the third person, the fourth person. The thick bolt, fired at close range, directly penetrated 6 people. Brother Hua, standing at the very back, still didn't understand what was happening. He only felt the pressure from the front suddenly increase. The people in front didn't seem to be moving inward, but backward instead, and with tremendous force, so much that even he couldn't hold it. Ah wah. Only when he heard the people in front let out screams did Brother Hua react. Looking closely, he saw that the 6 brothers in front had been skewered into a string by a steel pipe and were collapsing sideways. Holy shit. Brother Hua was terrified out of his wits. In that instant, his adrenaline surged, and he turned and ran. Su Yan didn't have time to cock the second crossbow bolt, so he casually hurled the steel pipe in his hand like a javelin. Whoosh! One hit directly drove Brother Hua into the security door of Unit 1703 opposite. Unfortunately, the security door was made of iron, so the javelin couldn't pierce through it or pin him there. Brother Hua struggled, a steel pipe stuck in his back, and ran around the corner. Damn it! Su Yan cursed loudly, grabbed the fire axe, and chased after him. But when he reached the corner and looked, the guy had already vanished. He was carrying a steel pipe and still ran that fast? But with that kind of injury, Su Yan didn't believe he could still survive, so he stopped chasing and turned back. In the hallway, the 6 people skewered together like candied hawthorns were groaning and crying in agony. Cry your ass. Sob, sob, sob. Weren't you acting all arrogant just now? Whimper, whimper. No crying aloud. Su Yan was kind-hearted and couldn't bear to see people suffer, so he directly used the fire axe to end their pain. Back home, he slammed the security door shut with a bang, the fire axe in Su Yan's hand dropping to the floor as he leaned against the door and took a few heavy breaths. Killing for the second time felt much better than the first. He hadn't expected a single strike to practically wipe them all out. One had escaped, but most likely wouldn't survive either. Only then did Xiao Muling recover from the shock and walk over to look at blood-soaked Su Yan, and said tremblingly, Su Yan, are you okay? Su Yan nodded and said, I'm fine. Su Yan, Xiao Muling called out, and despite him being covered in blood, she threw herself at Su Yan and burst into tears while hugging him. She had just seen all the horrific scenes outside with her own eyes. She had never even seen anything like that in movies before. Su Yan wrapped one arm around her waist and gently patted her with the other in comfort. TSK, TSK. Killed a mutant. Gain points +5. Killed a mutant. Gain points +7. Huh. Among those 6 people, there were actually 2 mutants? What had they done? After a while more. Killed a mutant. Gained points plus 99 points. That must have been the one who escaped at the end. TCH, mutated. Mutated my ass. Suyin actually had a vague understanding in his heart that killing those mutants involved a bit of luck. But luck is also a kind of strength. You have to use your brain in a fight. What's the use of relying on brute force alone? Sob, sob, sob. Suyin, why you? Stop touching my butt. After comforting Xiao Muling for more than 10 minutes, the two continued their unfinished lunch. In the afternoon, Suyin set up the bed crossbow by the balcony window again and started shooting fish. Xiao Muling still stood beside him, helping him retrieve the bolts. Watching the crossbow bolts hit fish after fish and then drop midway, Xiao Muling's eyes were filled with confusion. After what happened at noon, Suyin's view of Xiao Muling had also changed somewhat, so he explained, "These fish have all mutated. I don't know if they're edible. Our food supplies are sufficient, so we don't need to eat fish for now." Xiao Muling nodded. She really didn't care what she ate. After months of hunger training, she could now swallow just about anything put into her mouth. "But then why are you going to all this trouble?" Suyin said. "If I don't practice more, how can I have any accuracy when I shoot?" Xiao Muling immediately understood. Although it was still dark during the day, there was at least some light. By 5 p.m., however, it became completely dark and nothing could be seen. Although blind firing still gave some chance of hitting sardines, Suyin, having gained a large number of points in just one day, couldn't be bothered with the effort. After an afternoon of hard work, he gained another 400 plus points, and together with what he had accumulated in the morning, he had a total of 558. Keep drawing. First, draw from the 100-point prize pool. Obtain smokeless charcoal 1,000 kilograms. Good stuff. But now that there is electricity, the need isn't that great. Obtained flour asterisk 50 bags, 1,250 kilograms. Obtained chainsaw asterisk 5 The Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Obtained rice asterisk 50 bags, 1,250 kilograms. Now they definitely have enough food. Altogether, the grain weighs more than 5,000 gene. Even if the two of them ate as much as they wanted, it would still last for 2 years. There were still 158 points left, and Su Yin hesitated. He decided to draw once from the 1-point pool first, to hedge the odds a bit. Even though probability is kind of mystical, but those who know, know. Obtained 1 box of chewing gum, obtained 1 head of cabbage, obtained 1 pack of Kong Shuifu mineral water, obtained 1 pack of Big Elephant instant noodles, 6 packs. The same kind of items drawn with 1 point could actually vary so much in quantity. The Mystic Rulebook says, chase gains, not losses. Move up to the 10.1. Obtained 1 Beretta 92F pistol, with 30 rounds of spare ammo. Not bad. Obtained Muzhuang lamb asterisk 5 boxes, obtained white tofu 50 kilograms. Damn. Is this trying to make me eat hot pot tonight? Draw. Su Yin directly spent all 58 points in one go, leaving only the last 100 points, and after hesitating for a moment, he still left them untouched. Xiao Muling had already closed all the curtains, then turned on the lights. Oh my god, for the first time, she realized how blissful life with electricity was. Looking at the bright lights, Xiao Muling was so moved that tears streamed down her face. Su Yin smiled and said, "Not just electricity, there's also a TV." Xiao Muling said in surprise, "There aren't any channels anymore, right?" Su Yin smiled. "I prepared for this long ago." As he spoke, he went into the room and brought out a stack of portable hard drives. "Pick one, see what you want to watch." Xiao Muling also curiously leaned over. The portable hard drives even had labels on them: Western action, Neon action, Domestic action. Xiao Muling tilted her head and looked at them from the side, saying, "They're all action? Martial arts or gunfights?" Both. Supernatural. Horror. Sci-fi. Disaster. Romance. Variety shows. Or films. American dramas. Japanese dramas. Korean dramas. Xiao Muling put a finger to her lips, thought for a moment, and said, "Let's watch an American drama." "Okay." Su Yin snapped his fingers directly. "What are we eating tonight?" "Hot pot." Hot. A box of fresh frozen lamb and fresh vegetables appeared before her eyes, and Xiao Muling once again widened her eyes in astonishment. Su Yin explained, "The renovation workers liked hot pot, and these were left over from them." What he said wasn't entirely false. The hot pot base and sesame paste really had been left over from that time. Oh, this time, Xiao Muling didn't question it and directly went to wash the vegetables and get things ready. The steaming hot pot was ready, and the spicy aroma came wafting right up. And also, the fragrance of lamb. Xiao Muling took a deep sniff, and an ecstatic expression appeared on her face. Then she said in a tearful voice, "I never imagined hot pot could smell this good. Let's eat." The 100-inch color TV turned on, revealing a scene as poetic as an ancient verse. Slurp, these glass noodles smell so good too. After a while, a sound suddenly came from the TV. Xiao Muling abruptly stopped her chopsticks, then turned to look at the TV screen, her eyes widening in shock. I've seen this part before, so how? How come it didn't have this kind of scene? Suyin asked, where did you watch it before? Tingsu video. Then what you watched was Game of Thrones. Isn't this it? This is a Song of Slaughter and F*** King. Xiao Muling. An hour later. Xiao Muling. Tingsu video is too evil, my membership. It was a rare hot pot meal, and both of them ate their fill. Xiao Muling's little belly was even sticking out, and she gently rubbed it with her hand. Suyin looked at her and said, stop sitting on your paint bucket. Come sit on the sofa. But there was only one single armchair left. Suyin reached out and patted his own leg, saying, this sofa is softer. Xiao Muling's pretty face flushed red, but she still sat down. Suyin casually pulled her into his arms. Looking at the mess on the dining table, Xiao Muling gnashed her teeth in anguish. How hateful. In a year of disaster, there was actually some left over. But I really can't eat another bite. My heart aches so much. It's fine, we'll plug the refrigerator back in later. Xiao Muling weighed it seriously for a moment and said, Although it'll use a bit more fuel, greens are just too hard to come by. But wow, Mother of Dragons has an amazing figure. This outfit really suits her. Su Yin sized her up and said, her figure is pretty good, but she's almost catching up to you. Not at all. Xiao Muling. This ugly. Xiao Muling suddenly seemed to feel a little uncomfortable and subconsciously reached out, wanting to brush it away. Then she suddenly realized what was happening, and her whole face flushed red. All of a sudden, the two of them fell silent. An ambiguous atmosphere, like a cloud of pink mist, suddenly rose up and tightly wrapped around the two of them. After a while, Xiao Muling said shyly, Su Yan, are you feeling very uncomfortable? Then what should I? Xiao Muling suddenly sprang up and turned to run toward the bathroom. Su Yan was stunned. What was wrong with her? This was surely not to that extent, right? Su Yan slowly lowered his head and looked at his leg. He was only wearing shorts, and on his pale leg were 2 drops of bright red blood. Su Yan turned his head and saw that along the path Xiao Muling had run, there were also several drops of blood on the white tiles. The corner of Su Yan's mouth twitched. Right at the last moment, the referee made a bad call. Do you know how worked up I am right now? Sigh. In the end, Su Yan still stood up and asked, do you need me to get something for you? Xiao Muling said, I ran out of supplies a long time ago. Su Yan directly took out a pack of Safi from his storage space, walked over, opened the bathroom door, and handed it in. How did you? Xiao Muling raised her head in alarm, and when she saw the Safi, she froze for a moment and said, why you even have this? Su Yan said with a dark expression, the renovation crew got it. Xiao Muling stretched out her hand and snatched the Safi away with a whoosh. Bang! The bathroom door shut. Just as Su Yan was about to walk away, a knock at the door suddenly rang out. In the dead of night, who could this be now? Su Yan walked toward the security door with a dark face, leaned over to look through the peephole, and immediately froze. 1 hour earlier, at Su Yan's neighbor's home, Yu Hongbin and Zhuang Xiaoyou were each sitting on opposite ends of the sofa, both with dark expressions. Suddenly, what's that smell? Yu Hongbin sniffed his nose and walked toward the door, sniffing like a dog. Zhuang Xiaoyou smelled it too. The two of them went to the door and took several hard sniffs. A look of intoxication immediately appeared on Yu Hongbin's face. Hot pot, spicy flavor. My God, and there's even the smell of lamb. Zhuang Xiaoyou's stomach growled twice, and she said, how could there possibly still be lamb? The two looked at each other, and both saw the shock in the other's eyes. Yu Hongbin stood up and first leaned close to the peephole to look outside. It was pitch black, and he couldn't see anything. Then Yu Hongbin carefully opened the door, stretched his head out, and took a hard sniff, then immediately pulled back and shut the security door. It's Su Yan. I knew it was that kid. Damn it. We've already run out of food, and that brat is actually still eating hot pot. What a bastard. Zhuang Xiaoyou was also full of shock and said, no, that can't be possible, right? Yu Hongbin's eyes shifted, fixing on Zhuang Xiaoyou as he beckoned. Honey, come, let's discuss this. Go now and, while they're eating hot pot, ask to borrow some food. He'll definitely be too embarrassed to refuse. Zhuang Xiaoyou's expression immediately darkened, and she said, what? You want your wife to sell herself? Zhuang Xiaoyou, have my dignity too. If anyone's going to sell, you go sell yourself. This. How can that be called selling ourselves? We're only trying to survive by trading for some food. I won't go? Yu Hongbin immediately began trying to persuade her earnestly. And after talking for a long time, it all came down to 2 sentences. We've already been out of food for 2 days. If we don't get even 1 bite soon, we'll definitely starve to death. Other than Su Yan, who else would be willing to lend us food? Even if others wanted to lend some, they don't have any at home. Zhuang Xiaoliu said coldly. Then this time, how much are you planning to sell your wife for? Yu Hongbin thought it over and said, I figure he'd probably give 30 jin. If that really doesn't work, 20 jin? Fine. I'll go sell myself, but you'd better not regret it. With that, Zhuang Xiaoliu stood up, flicked her sleeve, and walked out. Hey, honey, wait. What? You're regretting it already? No. Yu Hongbin raised a hand and pointed toward the bedroom, saying, Go. Change into something else, Humph. Zhuang Xiaoliu walked into the bedroom and slammed the door shut with a bang. After quite a while, she finally came out, already wearing makeup. On her upper body, she wore a blue tight short dress. The thin fabric without any pattern stretched tightly over her body and outlining her figure completely. Her shoulders were left bare, and on her pair of long legs, she wore flesh-colored stockings, with black high heels on her feet as she walked out calmly. Honey, Zhuang Xiaoliu said with a cold face. What now? Yu Hongbin swallowed and said, Honey, you go first and have him give the food first. Once the food is in hand, I'll rush over and snatch you back. Zhuang Xiaoliu raised her brows, and a surge of anger flared up. Didn't you see the corpses on the floor? Didn't you see Su Yan kill so many people all by himself? If you had any guts, you'd have gone already. What are you bragging to me here for? Yu Hongbin chuckled and said, How could I bear to let my wife fall into that villain's hands? Our goal is the food. As long as we trick him into handing over the food. Humph. Zhuang Xiaoliu said nothing, turned, and went out. Stepping over the corpses in the hallway, she came to room 1701 and knocked. Su Yan was a little pleasantly surprised to see it was her, thinking this older sister had come at just the right time. So, Sister Lu, have you discussed the price? With tears glistening in her eyes, Zhuang Xiaoliu said, Good little brother, we're really about to starve to death. Are you eating hot pot at home? Su Yan nodded and said, Yeah, good little brother. Can you let your sister have a bite? Sis is really about to starve to death. Su Yan thought to himself, I'm also about to be teased to the point of starving to death. Okay, come in yourself. As he spoke, Su Yan opened the door halfway, and Zhuang Xiaoliu slipped inside with a whoosh. Seeing this scene from his own doorway, Yu Hongbin was instantly stunned and said, Hey, wait. He darted over in one step and shouted, Honey, we haven't agreed on a price yet. He hasn't given the food yet, so how did you just go in? Honey. Yu Hongbin ran in such a hurry that he was tripped by a corpse in the hallway, but he didn't care, and immediately climbed back up, came to Su Yan's door, and pounded on it hard. This wasn't what he had imagined. I'm starving to death. Give me a bite first. I'm starving to death too. Yu Hongbin froze for a moment. Then his face flushed red. Bang, bang, bang. Yu Hongbin pounded hard on the security door and shouted, Honey, Su Yan, you bastard, what did you do to my wife? Bang, 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 bang. Yu Hongbin pounded on the door 3 times in a row, but the security door made 4 sounds, and the last one was even louder. Su Yan whiff? Beast. Damn beast. Yu Hongbin put on a whole performance for quite a while, and in the end could only go home on an empty stomach. More than an hour later, Zhuang Xiaoliu also returned home. Honey, how are you? Zhuang Xiaoliu ignored him, tossed over 2 bags of instant noodles, and then headed straight for the bedroom. The moment he saw a bag of instant noodles, Yu Hongbin's face turned green. Damn it. After Su Yan treated you like that, he only gave you 2 bags of instant noodles? Damn it. As Yu Hongbin spoke, he turned and rushed into the kitchen, grabbed a cleaver, and walked out. Zhuang Xiaoliu said nothing, only looked at him coldly. He walked to the door and opened it. The night wind blew in. Yu Hongbin seemed to suddenly calm down again. He stood dazed in the doorway, frozen stiff. Zhuang Xiaoliu let out a full burp and turned toward the bedroom. Hey, honey, you. Bang. Zhuang Xiaoliu walked into the bedroom and locked the door directly. Honey, you. Are you okay, honey? From inside the room came Zhuang Xiaoliu sobbing. Honey? Yu Hongbin shouted while banging on the door. But no matter how many times he called out, Zhuang Xiaoliu inside still refused to open the door for him. Yu Hongbin couldn't help getting angry. That damn bitch. You ate hot pot over there and only brought me instant noodles back. As he spoke, Yu Hongbin looked resentfully at the 2 packs of elephant instant noodles thrown on the floor, then picked them up. tore open the packaging, and started dry chewing them directly. The next day, Su Yan woke up early and saw that Xiao Muling had already prepared breakfast. The moment she saw Su Yan, Xiao Muling's pretty face immediately turned red. Yesterday really was. She had still been in the bathroom at the time and didn't dare come out for a long while. Su Yan also felt a little awkward. But he was a hot-blooded young man who'd been teased for so long. Who could stand that? Morning, sister-in-law. The two sat down and silently ate breakfast. During the meal, Xiao Muling kept glancing at Su Yan, her expression somewhat strange. Just as they were about to finish eating, Xiao Muling suddenly lowered her head and said, Su Yan, sorry. Su Yan froze. Why are you apologizing? Xiao Muling said, I think there isn't much food in the kitchen either. It's all my fault. That came at the wrong time. Otherwise you wouldn't have had to give her 2 bags of instant noodles. Why you just endure it for a bit first? In a couple of days it'll be fine. So it turned out she was worried there wouldn't be enough food. That was normal too. She must have thought Su Yan's food supply was also very limited. She was a woman staying at home. Yet Su Yan still had to take food to find other women. No matter how you looked at it, it was a bit hard to justify. Those were precious. 2 bags of instant noodles. Su Yan swallowed the rice porridge in his mouth and said, Sister-in-law, don't worry. You don't need to concern yourself with food. After breakfast, he started shooting fish as usual again. On rainy days, there were many fish showing above the water, and besides sea fish, there were also many freshwater fish. But strangely, none of the freshwater fish had mutated. Without mutation, the freshwater fish gave no points. He also wasn't sure whether these freshwater fish could be eaten. Forget it. Since food wasn't lacking anyway, he couldn't be bothered to study them. After a whole day of practice yesterday, Su Yan's accuracy had improved quite a bit, and he could start trying to shoot some smaller fish. Unfortunately, the system still hadn't drawn a fishing net. Otherwise, the efficiency would be even higher. Should I go downstairs and take a look? Su Yan guessed that someone should be going downstairs to catch fish. In such a large building, perhaps someone might have a fishing net. Now that he had a gun in hand, his safety was also guaranteed. Just then, bang, a gunshot suddenly rang out. Hearing the gunshot, Su Yan was instantly startled. Xiao Muling beside him was also startled, her beautiful eyes looking at Su Yan in shock. A gun, the great equalizer. Even Su Yan would still die if he were hit by a shot. The interior of the building had cramped terrain and a complex environment. If someone took a potshot at him, it would be too hard to defend against. Thinking of this, Su Yan couldn't help frowning. After quite a while, Xiao Muling asked somewhat uncertainly, a gun? Su Yan nodded. Although guns were banned in Huaxia, for rich people, getting a gun wasn't all that difficult. The heavy rain had been falling for so long, and nobody was stupid. Who wouldn't have some ideas? Even Su Yan had thought many times about how to get a gun for self-defense. Unfortunately, he had neither money nor connections, so he could only think about it. Fortunately, he had the system. He now had a pistol and a shotgun. But that didn't stop him from getting shot too. Forget it, it wasn't worth going out and taking risks. He had the system, so what was the rush? Better to lie low for now. Killed mutated sardine, gained points +3. After shooting fish for a while, Su Yan caught a glimpse of pain faintly showing on Xiao Muling's face, with cold sweat even breaking out on her forehead. He immediately remembered. Xiao Muling probably had fairly severe menstrual cramps, so he immediately said, Sis-in-law, go get some rest. I'll go. After Xiao Muling left, Su Yan shot fish by himself for a while, but still felt a little uneasy, so he immediately went to the kitchen to boil water and made a cup of brown sugar water. Only then did he remember that he still didn't know which room Xiao Muling had moved into. His apartment had 4 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, and 2 bathrooms, and every room was still quite spacious. Su Yan scratched his head and could only call out, Sis-in-law? Hey, what is it? Following the voice, Su Yan walked to a bedroom and pushed open the door. In the spacious bedroom, the desk, chairs, wardrobe, and bedside cabinet had all been chopped up by Su Yan for firewood, leaving only a bed. Xiao Muling was lying on the bare bed, with only a piece of clothing covering her. The apartment's renovation still hadn't been completely finished, and there was only furniture in the home. As for bedding and such, there was only one set in the room Su Yan lived in, the one he had brought himself. When Xiao Muling came, she had only carried a backpack, which probably contained only her own clothes and some personal items, so naturally, she wouldn't have brought bedding. Seeing this, Su Yan couldn't help frowning and said somewhat reproachfully, Sis-in-law, how are you supposed to sleep at night without bedding? Why didn't you say anything? Xiao Muling smiled and said, I still have a trench coat to use as a cover. That's enough. Although it was summer now, it had been raining continuously for more than 5 months, so the temperature naturally couldn't be high, and at night it didn't even reach 10 degrees. Moreover, as summer passed, the temperature would continue to drop. Suyin could almost foresee that this year's winter would probably be an extremely harsh one. Although there were still several months before winter, they already needed to make some preparations. Although his place had quite a lot of tools and materials, clothes and bedding were relatively lacking. Suyin helped Xiao Muling sit up and said, "Here, drink some brown sugar water." Warmth appeared on Xiao Muling's face as she said, "Thank you, Suyin." After drinking a bowl of steaming hot brown sugar water, a bit of color returned to Xiao Muling's pale face. Looking at the thin clothes she was wearing, Suyin said, "Sis-in-law, how about you sleep in my room?" Hearing this, Xiao Muling's pretty face flushed red. She lowered her head, as if thinking about something for a moment, then finally nodded and said, "Okay." With that, she got out of bed, picked up her windbreaker, and followed Suyin out. Suyan's room was a spacious master bedroom with its own bathroom. Besides a large bed, there was also a wardrobe and a dressing table. Other than that, however, there was not much else in the room. "Get some rest," Xiao Muling said somewhat awkwardly. "I'm sorry, Suyin. I was just in a lot of pain the first 2 days, but by the 3rd day it was a bit better." "Sigh." Suyin waved his hand casually and said, "There's nothing much to do right now anyway, so get some rest." With that, he left the room, went to the balcony, and continued killing fish. Empty shot. Empty shot. Killed mutated hairtail. Gained points +4 before he knew it. Half a day had passed. "Suyin, time to eat." Although Xiao Muling's stomach hurt badly, she still got up and made lunch. Lunch was white rice and braised tofu, with a jar of lao gan ma on the side. Though it was plain, it was already quite good at a time like this. As Xiao Muling shoveled rice into her mouth, she said with a red face, "I saw there's quite a lot of flour in the kitchen, but unfortunately, I'm not very good at steaming mantou. Sioux City is in the south, where rice is the staple food, and no household would stock yeast." Suyin merely kept his head down, shoveling rice into his mouth without speaking. Seeing this, Xiao Muling said guiltily, "I'm sorry. Am I very useless?" Suyin had been thinking about something and only reacted at this moment. "Oh, it's fine. Just leave it for now. What young person these days knows how to make flour-based food by hand?" Suyin raised his hand and pointed toward the bedroom. "I've downloaded quite a few cooking videos on the tablet by the bed. You can watch them later." "Okay." Hearing this, Xiao Muling felt somewhat ashamed. Back when the internet hadn't been cut off, it had never occurred to her to do these things. After lunch, Suyin went to the balcony, smoking as he looked out over the water. In just 2 days, there were already very few big fish visible on the water's surface. Using ordinary crossbow bolts to shoot fish was becoming increasingly difficult. "I need to modify the steel pipe. Weld on some thick iron wire to make a fish spear." Although doing so would reduce accuracy, it would increase the striking area. Even with blind shots, there would still be a chance to hit some small fish in the water. No sooner said than done. Suyin immediately got to work. The power had lasted for a while after the torrential rain, but not for long. After the outage, the welding machine was useless. Now that there was electricity again, it could be used once more. He immediately found some thick iron wire, cut it into several sections, sharpened the outer ends, and then welded them onto a long steel pipe. He mounted it on the crossbow and gave it a try. The accuracy had indeed worsened quite a bit, and the increased weight of the steel pipe affected the power of the crossbow bolt. Fortunately, he was shooting from above, so this bit of impact could be ignored. He tested it for half the afternoon. The efficiency of blind shooting was not very high, but occasionally one thrust could spear 2 or even 3 small fish. Overall, the total amount of points gained still increased. After a busy day, the total points reached 956.